Time now for the real world with Lee Anderson, and up to 100,000 civil servants have been on strike today, meaning they could go out for vegan brunches, ride their Peloton bikes and switch on loose women. So actually no different from your average Wednesday, right, when they're working from home. Lee, on the other hand, has returned from a very important fact-finding mission in Calais as he gets to the bottom of the migrant crisis. And he made this crucial discovery. Watch.
I'm still furious. I'm foaming at the mouth over this Care for Calais organisation. They're acting like a magnet for these young men to set up camp here. They're basically feeding them, clothing them. They're teaching them how to speak English, how to read and write in English, and then waiting for them. Once they cross the channel, they're waiting for them and volunteering in hotels to support them while they're there.
Well, Lee, so it feels like this trip was very worthwhile. What else did you discover?
Well, it was worthwhile, Dan. I mean, what we discovered was quite frankly, it was shocking. We went to a migrant camp in Calais, and it was all young men from Africa, from Sudan and from Eritrea. Young women in the camp who were working for Care for Calais. We've seen some inappropriate behaviour as well, holding hands and getting a little bit too close. It's an industry. This is the final leg of the journey. These young men are travelling from Africa. They've got no money in their pockets. How do they earn that money? So the gendarme told us that they do it through a life of crime when they get there. They're either thieving, they're robbing, it's prostitution, it's drug dealing. And to make matters worse, Care for Calais, these young people are teaching them how to speak English and getting them ready for the journey. And like I said in the clip there, when they get to the UK, these people, hundreds of them, the Care for Calais volunteers, are waiting in British hotels to take them on the next step of the journey to claim asylum. It's absolutely disgraceful. They should hang their heads in shame. In fact, they need investigating by the charities.
Well, I was going to say, what can we do about this? Because the way Care for Calais is presented in the mainstream media constantly is as if they're this great humanitarian organisation. They're given carte blanche to say whatever they want about how inhumane our policies are.
Well, they're not. I mean, they made it quite clear to me that they believe in open borders. They believe in a universal passport. They say that any one of the 80 million displaced people in the world should be allowed to come to the UK to claim asylum. Absolutely out of touch. Lots of these young girls that we're speaking to on the gap years from uni probably never had a real job, never lived in the real world, and just a bunch of do-gooders who are making a mockery of our asylum system.
And so what are you going to do as a result of this trip? I mean, are there ways to report back? Because the problem is, Lee, this is an emergency. We don't have time to waste.
I've been banging on about this, since I got elected. So we went as part of the Home Affairs Select Committee. So we're doing a letter report to Rishi. That goes to him. We've already fed back through his secretaries, fed back to the Home Secretary. They know. They've seen it on GB News as well. Furious is not the word. Like I say, it's an old industry. The people smugglers and Care for Calais, they're different sides of the coin, but they're both doing the same thing. They're encouraging this evil trade. And like I said before on this show, whilst ever I'm at that place over there, the madhouse, I will keep banging on about it.
Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, this week, encouraging us all to keep the faith in the Conservative Party to solve this issue. But you can understand, Lee, that now we've got this new prediction of 80,000 arriving in what is an invasion this year. I mean, it's getting tougher to keep the faith because we need emergency action.
It's getting tougher, Dan, for me to look my constituents in the eye and say we're going to solve this, because we've marched them up the hill many, many times and they still keep coming. Rishi's made a pledge today in PMQs that if you arrive here illegally, you've got no chance of claiming asylum and you'll get sent straight back. We wanted that from day one, so let's see if he delivers.
Leave the ECHR. Leave the ECHR.
Rip
It is the only way that this will be resolved. And the problem is, I worry that this has all been left too late, because the election is just around the corner and this takes time.
Yeah,
I know what the courts are going to do.
I worry about that. I think, my opinion has always been just ignore it and just crack on.
Absolutely.
What they're going to do, put us all in prison? No chance.
Indeed. Now, look, Lee, allies of Boris Johnson in the Conservative Democratic organisation have called for the next party chairman to be elected by members. And were that to happen, I'm sure there's many members who would love to see your name on the ballot, Lee Anderson. Would you be interested in a role like Tory chairman?
Well, look, listen, I'm not going to sit here like one of those politicians and say I don't want a promotion, it's not for me, blah, blah, blah. Of course I would be. I mean, it'd be a great honour, considering where I've come from. I've come from a Labour Party background, been a Labour councillor, worked for a Labour MP, and now I'm a Conservative Member of Parliament. My story is, I mean, I like my own story. I'm a working class Tory. One of the 5 million that voted Conservative for the very first time because we put our faith in Boris and the party. And I think some of our membership actually do like me, but I think the country needs reminding and my party needs reminding on what a working class Tory is, and I represent that. But I've got no chance.
Well, that's sad.
Sad.
That's sad to me because it shows that the party is out of touch with the people who it desperately needs to be voting.
It's not just our party, it's all parties are out of touch with the electorate and the membership. That's just politics, Dan.
Well, hopefully that can change. Finally, your old buddy, the anti-Brexit rabble-rouser, Steve Bray, was at his odious worst earlier on when he delivered his trademark kick. Well, this was during a BBC debate. But let me tell you, those BBC bouncers are not to be messed with. Look.
Steve, it's very nice. Steve, it's nice of you to come and join us, but for those of you listening at home, Steve Bray is down.
So at last the BBC stick up for Brexit,
Well,
but through their security guards.
Well, look, I mean, it's this type of behaviour from the BBC that's encouraging me to buy a TV licence again and renege on my promise to rip it up. But look, this man, we know this creature. He wanders around Whitehall on a regular basis, quite clearly unhinged. I think what he does need is a prolonged heavy dose of medication and a good straitjacket. I think that'll sort him out.
Do you still want to challenge him to a
I've challenged him to a 3-round boxing match. Obviously, the weight division he's in, by looking at that clip there, looks like he's in the overweight division. So I think I could take him out in 3. I might just toy him for a few rounds, but he's quite clearly unhinged. I don't know what medication he's on. I know he drinks a lot, but he's a public nuisance.
I was speaking to some folk who were at that event last night, Lee. Of course, the BBC, even though they had to get rid of Bray, had stacked the audience with Ramonas.
Yeah, well, of course, that's what they do. It's so biased, Dan. You know that. I mean, this is one of the reasons that I love GB News, because, it doesn't matter what your politics are, you've got a platform here. You've got all sorts of people on there. You've even got ex-Labour MPs presenting business shows on it. And the great Jacob Rees-Mogg, I believe, is going on very,
He's on his way.
He's a gentleman. But, the BBC, it's not anti-Beeb, it's anti-British.
No, it is. I totally agree with that. I can reveal Jacob Rees-Mogg having a look around the studio earlier. So it's coming. It's coming, folks. Jacob,
You'll have to put your tie on when Jacob comes in,
I know, he wasn't impressed. So are you. Lee Anderson, The Real World. Thank you so much, Lee.